Rain hammered down outside like a celestial deluge punctuated by rolling thunder that crashed against the black glazed tiles of Prince Jing's manor and against my already numb heart. I sat beside the cold brocade couch, fingers clutching a slender silver needle as I stitched the final garment for my child, who had lived but 3 days before perishing. The fabric was finest cloud brocade, soft as flowing moonlight, yet my hands trembled violently. Several times the needle nearly pierced my fingertip. No lamps were lit, only a brazier glowed in the corner, its dim red light illuminating my pallid face and the cradle where lay a tiny form that would never cry again. The air reeked of medicine and lingering blood, mingled with death's suffocating silence. My child. I hadn't even had time to give him a proper name before he came and went in such haste. The physician said he was weak, constitutionally deficient. But I knew better, Sagrik. The heavy rosewood door burst open with violent force. Wind and icy rain surged in, nearly extinguishing the brazier's flames. I didn't turn round. I continued threading the final stitch through the brocade, tying it off with a dead knot. The crisp thuzzanisp of severed thread echoed harshly in the deathly quiet room, as though some string within me had snapped in sympathy. Shen Ching Chi, a low, cold voice sounded behind me. My husband, or so I'd once believed. The Emperor's most beloved sixth son, Prince Jing. Xiao Mahan. I slowly raised my head through the murky light. I saw him in his ink-black brocade robes, posture upright as a pine, features still devastatingly handsome. But those phoenix eyes that once entranced me now held only icy detachment and barely concealed irritation. Rain had soaked his hair and shoulders, lending him an even more forbidding air. He didn't glance at the cradle, didn't spare even a flicker of attention for the tiny infant within. He simply strode to me and withdrew a letter from his sleeve, tossing it onto the low table before me. A divorce decree. The paper's edges were damp, but the bold characters Prince Jing's manor divorce decree remained clear like a poisoned brand, searing my eyes. Sign it, he commanded, brooking no argument. Lin Wana is with child. I cannot let her suffer indignity, nor can I allow my child's legitimacy to be questioned. Lin Wana, his white moonlight, his precious cousin whom he deemed too delicate to fend for herself. So that was it. My child's corpse wasn't even cold, yet here he stood, presenting me with divorce papers for the sake of another woman's pregnancy, real or fabricated. Seeing my silence, his frown deepened, his tone taking on the magnanimity of a benefactor. Rest assured, I shan't treat you shabbily. There is a villa in the southern district. You may reside there. The manor will send you a monthly allowance. You'll want for nothing only. This position of princess consort is no longer yours to occupy. Indeed, I could no longer occupy it. Not only was I childless, but jealous too. Wasn't that the story? The divorce decree cited those 7 grounds for dismissal. A divorced princess consort's best fate was a life of Buddhist devotion, seeing out her remaining days in solitude. I didn't touch the decree. Instead, I rose slowly. 3 years as princess consort had left scant trace upon me. I remained slender, my plain white sleeping robe hanging loose and empty. I walked to my dressing table and opened the heavy rosewood box, withdrawing a golden seal wrought in the shape of a coiling dragon. This was the princess consort's seal of authority, the very seal he'd placed in my hands on our wedding day. Back then he'd said, "Qingzi, from this day forth you are the sole mistress of Prince Jing's manor." His words still echoed. The man had changed beyond recognition. I cradled the seal and walked back to him, placing this symbol of supreme honor and shackles gently into his outstretched palm. The seal was cold and heavy. The moment it touched his palm, I saw his fingers curl slightly. "Xiao Mahan," I began, my voice hoarse as though scraped by sandpaper, yet eerily calm. "In 3 years of marriage, I've never wronged you. I strategized for you, managed your household, spent the last of the Shen family fortune paving your path, and this is my reward." He seemed unprepared for my composure. Surprise flickered in his eyes before being smothered by indifference. "Winners and losers, it has always been thus. Your Shen family has declined and can no longer aid me. Lin Wan's father is Minister of Personnel. He can bolster my position at court. Qingzi, you are a clever woman. Surely you understand cost-benefit analysis. Cost-benefit analysis, so that is all we'd become, a ledger of gains and losses. I looked at him and suddenly laughed, a laugh so bitter that tears nearly spilled. I bent slowly and picked up the divorce decree he'd tossed onto the table. The paper was cold, each character a blade, flaying my already shattered heart. "What splendid cost-benefit analysis," I murmured. Then, with a flick of my wrist, I hurled that document, bearer of 3 years' laughter and tears, love and hate, into the blazing brazier without hesitation. Flames leapt high, greedily devouring the paper. The decree curled, blackened, and turned to ash, along with all those vows once treasured in my heart, vanishing without trace. The leaping firelight reflected in my eyes. Cold and razor-sharp, Shah Mahan watched, his expression finally shifting. Perhaps he'd expected tears, hysterics, suicide threats, clinging to his legs in desperate supplication. He hadn't anticipated such ruthless finality. His lips moved as if to speak. I gave him no chance. I turned calmly, my back to him, and walked towards the cradle holding my child. The cradle was lined with thick brocade quilts I'd sewn stitch by stitch, now cold as iron. My movements were slow, each step like treading on knife points. Under Shah Mahan's startled, wary gaze, I bent down and reached beneath the soft bedding. When I straightened, I held a dagger, my mother's heirloom. The scabbard was plain material, indiscernible, but the hilt was inlaid with jade fragments that glinted coldly in the firelight. I'd brought it when I married into the manor, hidden here ever since beneath my child's body. I thought it would never see daylight again. I turned to face Shah Mahan. Shing asterisk. The sound wasn't crisp, rather dull, reluctant, like a beast long sealed away, finally voicing its resentment. I drew the dagger slowly. The blade was narrow, not gleaming but darkly lustrous, as though it absorbed light, yet its edge caught the flickering flames, reflecting a point of chilling brilliance. "Shen Qingqi, what are you doing?" Shah Mahan's face drained of color. He retreated instinctively, hand flying to his sword. "You dare attempt regicide?" I watched his suddenly ashen face, saw my reflection clearly in those dark pupils, cold, sharp, devoid of former affection. Regicide. My wrist lifted with lightning speed, the blade's tip halting 3 inches from his throat. "You are not worthy." The icy edge, carrying the room's deathly miasma, locked onto Shah Mahan. He froze, pupils contracting sharply, all composure and detachment evaporating, leaving only shock and disbelief. He could almost feel the blade's keenness threatening to pierce skin. Inside and out, silence reigned, only the brazier's uneasy crackling and the rain's intensifying roar. The blade hovered, that single point of cold light froze every molecule of air. Shah Mahan's Adam's apple bobbed. Cold sweat trickled from his temples, dripping onto his expensive robes, spreading dark stains. He'd never seen me like this. Those eyes that once held Jiangnan's misty gentleness now contained only ice-forged blades piercing straight to the heart. He could even smell the scent emanating from me. Medicine mixed with death, deeply unsettling. "You." His voice was dry. Trembling imperceptibly, he tried to reclaim princely authority. "Shen Qingqi, lower that blade. Do you want the entire Shen family to accompany you to the grave?" The Shen family, my Shen family. 3 years ago, to pave his path, we'd exhausted our last resources now. Aside from my wretched life, what did the Shen family have left for him to threaten me with? My gaze swept past his terrified face without answering. My vision seemed to pierce through him, landing on the storm-ravaged darkness beyond, on those long-departed Shen family souls he trampled as stepping stones. My hand gripping the dagger didn't waver in the slightest. After a moment's deathly silence, my wrist turned. The dagger hummed softly as I withdrew it. The lethal threat vanished abruptly. Shah Mahan's taut body sagged. He nearly collapsed, staggering back half a step before catching himself against the table. He gasped heavily, chest heaving, still shaken. I paid him no further mind. I returned to the brazier. Under Shah Mahan's bewildered gaze, I raised the dagger, blade aimed at a lock of my hair cascading over my chest. My hair, black as a waterfall, he'd praised it countless times, saying it was smoother than finest silk. Body, hair, and skin are received from one's parents and must not be damaged. I recited softly, tone flat as though discussing someone else's affairs. Binding hair as husband and wife, loving without doubt. As the words fell, I struck. Swish, asterisk, the sharp blade severed that lock symbolizing marital bonds cleanly. It drifted down. I caught the severed hair with my other hand, then unhesitatingly cast it, along with the dagger, into the brazier. Today I sever my hair, henceforth young Master Shao is but a stranger. The hair met fire, instantly curling and charring, emitting an acrid smell, mingling with the decree's ashes, indistinguishable. The dagger fell into the coals, soon glowing red-hot. As though consecrating a love long dead, having done this, I felt the last thread of attachment and warmth in my heart turn to ash alongside that severed lock. I straightened my spine and faced Xiao Muhan, whose complexion alternated between livid and pale. Your Highness, I corrected my address calmly. Oh, pardon me, Xiao Muhan. I've burned the divorce papers. You and I are finished. This manner, I've no wish to linger another moment. I have but one request. He stared at me, eyes complex beyond description. Anger, humiliation, perhaps even a trace of regret he himself hadn't recognized. Through gritted teeth, he forced out, "Speak. I am taking my child." My gaze fell upon the cold cradle, voice finally betraying undisguisable grief. Xiao Mahan followed my gaze, seeming to notice that tiny existence for the first time. His brow furrowed, face flashing with disgust and impatience. A dead bastard, what use is taking him? Just bury him somewhere. He is my child, each word deliberate, carrying immense weight. I bore him. I am responsible for seeing him properly laid to rest. Xiao Mahan, this is my final request. Perhaps my deathly resolve unnerved him. After a moment's silence, he waved dismissively. As you wish. I'd like to see what becomes of a divorced woman cast out from Prince Jing's manor. You'll likely starve in the streets within 3 days. That needn't concern you, I replied coldly, ignoring him thereafter. I approached the cradle, carefully wrapping my poor child in layers of brocade, holding him tightly. His tiny body was almost weightless, yet so heavy I could scarcely breathe. His cheeks were ice cold, skin an unnatural bluish white. I pressed my cheek against his. No warmth, only deathly cold. Tears welled, but I forced them back. No crying. Shen Qingqi, from now on, your tears are reserved solely for vengeance. Cradling my child, I took one last look at this chamber that had been my quarters. Here lay 3 years of my youth, now only wreckage and cold ashes remained. I didn't spare Xiao Mahan another glance. Holding my child, I walked resolutely through that door that had imprisoned me for 3 years. Stepping into the boundless storm, rain was bone-chillingly cold, instantly soaking my garments, plastering them to my body. I shivered violently, yet felt nothing. The cold of my child's body was 1,000, 10,000 times colder than this tempest. I stumbled along the manor's stone path. Behind me, the lamplight from that chamber grew distant, finally swallowed by darkness. I didn't know where to go. I had nowhere to go. The Shen family had long since fallen, in all of capital's vastness. There was no place for me, but I knew I couldn't stop. I had to leave this suffocating place. This tomb that had buried my love and kinship. Through wind and rain, cradling my ice-cold child, I walked like a lonely ghost towards that unknown darkness bristling with thorns and hatred. Strategic commentary. First node. Rock bottom after ultimate suppression. Sheng Qingxi burning the decree. Severing her hair, wielding the blade. What is the essence of these 3 acts? Complete negation of the old system. She is telling Xiao Muhan, I am done playing your game. Next. Strategic commentary. First node. Rock bottom after ultimate suppression. Shen Qingqi burning the decree. Severing her hair, wielding the blade. What is the essence of these 3 acts? Complete negation of the old system. She is telling Xiao Mahan, I am done playing your game. Next, let's see how she establishes new rules of engagement. The downpour intensified. Rain pelted down like fists, each drop a sharp pain. Cradling my child, I wandered aimlessly through deserted streets. Beneath my feet, rain-slicked cobblestones reflected the wan glow of distant lanterns. Each step splashed icy mud. My body's warmth drained away steadily. The weakness of recent childbirth, compounded by grief and abandonment, had long since depleted my strength. My steps grew heavier, vision blurring. Rain and tears mingled, flowing into my mouth, bitter and astringent. The bundle in my arms grew heavier, like a mountain crushing my chest. I bit down hard, clinging to my last shred of will, but my legs felt leaden, unable to advance another step. Finally, darkness swam before my eyes. I could hold on no longer. My body swayed and pitched forward. I collapsed heavily into freezing puddles. The small bundle slipped from my grasp, rolling aside, to retrieve my child, but my body felt dismantled, immobile. Consciousness plummeted. Just as I thought I'd perish alongside my child in this frigid night, several frivolous, alcohol-laced voices drifted to my ears. "Oi, look here. Whose little lady's collapsed? Check that figure, plain clothes, but definitely a beauty. Rainy night like this must have been thrown out by some heartless bastard. Boss, we've struck gold. Drag her into the alley, we'll have our fun, and she might have valuables on her." Several shadowy figures emerged from a dark corner street. Thugs. They eyed me sprawled on the ground, gazes glinting with greed and lechery. Advancing step by step, terror and despair surged through me. I tried desperately to move, to cry out, but my throat produced no sound. Was this to be Shen Qingxi's wretched end? A rough, filthy hand reached for my collar. Just then, urgent, steady hoofbeats shattered the rainy night silence. An extravagantly luxurious black-lacquered carriage, drawn by 4 magnificent jet-black steeds, halted soundlessly nearby. 8-sided palace lanterns hung around it, their light piercing the rain, dispelling surrounding darkness, and freezing the thugs mid-motion. The curtain lifted, revealing a hand with elegant joints and a dark jade thumb ring scram. One word, low, cold, emotionless, yet carrying crushing force and bone-chilling authority. The thugs reacted as though struck by invisible hammers. Terrified, witless, they fled into the dark alley with profuse apologies, vanishing as though they'd never existed. I struggled to lift my eyes through blurred vision. I glimpsed only a tall figure descending from the carriage, holding a black-oiled paper umbrella, approaching unhurriedly. The umbrella obscured his features. I could only see his black brocade robe embroidered with intricate gold cloud patterns, and boots that remained spotless despite treading through puddles. The aura of life and death authority he exuded seemed to still even the storm itself. It was him, Regent Prince Pei Yuan, the man who wielded power over court and country, whom even the emperor treated with deference. Rumor painted him ruthless, capricious, a living king of hell who dispatched countless political enemies. None in the Great Zhou dared provoke him. I'd had no dealings with him, only glimpsing him once from afar at a palace banquet. Why was he here? Why would he save me? No time to ponder. Survival instinct summoned my last reserves of strength. I struggled to extend my hand, not grasping his robe, but clutching the hem of his sleeve hanging at his side. The fabric was cold and silken, my fingertips burned. "Save me," I whispered, voice faint as a mosquito's whine, nearly drowned by rain. "I know medicine. I can cure any poison. Save me, and I can offer." I couldn't finish. Consciousness plunged into darkness, but in that final moment before oblivion, I felt the hand whose sleeve I'd grasped pause slightly. Then powerful arms lifted both me and my cold child. I fell into a broad, warm embrace carrying a faint, crisp ambergris scent, stark contrast to the storm's chill. It was the most reassuring strength I'd ever known. I didn't know why I'd begged him for help, nor why he'd stopped. Perhaps this was merely a desperate soul's final grasp at a straw before drowning. The carriage rolled forward slowly, wheels grinding over cobblestones, severing me and the cold manor behind from 2 different worlds entirely. I don't know how long I remained unconscious. When I woke, I found myself in an elegant, warm bedchamber. My soaked garments had been changed for clean, soft silk sleeping robes. The bone-deep chill had largely dissipated, replaced by warmth flowing gently through my limbs. Incense burned in a bedside burner. Outside, rain had ceased. Faint light filtered through latticed windows. "Princess Consort, you are awake," a gentle-voiced maid, seeing me stir, immediately brought a bowl of warm ginseng broth. "His Highness ordered the kitchen to prepare this for you." Princess Consort, my heart clenched. Then I realized she meant Regent Prince Pei Yuan. I struggled upright. My first thought was my child. My child, my voice remained hoarse. The maid's face showed sympathy and reluctance. She consoled softly, Princess Consort, please accept our condolences. His Highness has arranged for the young master to be buried with heirs' honors at West Mountain's blessed ground. He also commissioned monks to perform rites. Here is the deed to the burial plot. His Highness instructed me to give it to you. She handed me a deed. I accepted it with trembling hands. West Mountain's blessed ground, the most coveted feng shui site among the capital's elite. What Xiao Mahan had disdained, here received the title, Young Master, and heirs' honors. How bitterly ironic. Tears finally spilled, falling in heavy drops onto that thin deed, spreading damp circles. These weren't tears of weakness. They were a mother's tears for her pitiful child. Seeing my grief, the maid withdrew silently. I sat alone for a long while, until the ginseng broth cooled. I forced myself to drink it. My body needed recovery. I had more important matters ahead. That evening, Pei Yuan came. He changed from court robes into plain black attire, shedding some courtly majesty yet remaining imposingly formidable. His features were chiseled, high-bridged nose, thin lips pressed tight, fathomless dark eyes that seemed to penetrate souls. He didn't sit, merely stood several paces from the bed, observing me quietly. Thank you, Your Highness, for saving me and arranging my child's burial. Shen Qingqi will never forget this kindness. I attempted to bow, wanting to leave the bed, but his glance stopped me. No need for formalities, you are still weak. His voice remained cool, emotionless. I didn't save you without price. I understood, nodding. I comprehend. Whatever Your Highness requires. If within my ability, I'll comply unto death. He studied me, those profound eyes flickering with inquiry. Last night you said you know medicine and can cure any poison. Is this true? Yes, my answer was unhesitating. Though the Shen family has declined, our ancestors were renowned physicians, including imperial doctors. I've been steeped in medical and toxicological arts since childhood, possessing considerable skill. However, after marrying Xiao Mahan to be the gentle, virtuous consort he desired, I buried these abilities deep. He didn't know, didn't care to know. Pei Yuan fell silent briefly before speaking slowly. I've been poisoned, a rare toxin, 3 years now. The palace physicians are helpless. If you can cure me, I'll grant you any one request. Any one request. Those 4 words exploded like thunder across my desolate heart. I raised my head, meeting his scrutinizing gaze, enunciating clearly. I want Prince Jing Xiao Muhan, utterly ruined and left with nothing. As I spoke, my voice wasn't loud, yet it carried bone-deep hatred. Pei Yuan's brow arched slightly, seemingly unsurprised by my answer. He didn't respond immediately, instead asking another question. Do you know why your child died? My body jolted. I stared at him sharply. He said flatly, 3 days ago Prince Jing's concubine, Lady Lin, somehow experienced fetal distress. Critical condition. Xiao Mahan searched desperately for renowned physicians. Finally, he obtained a century-old Tianshan snow lotus from the palace, barely saving Lady Lin and her unborn child. Tianshan snow lotus. My mind food buzzed, as though struck by a sledgehammer. When my child was born with faint breath, the physician said if we had Tianshan snow lotus to sustain him, there might be hope. I'd wept, begging Xiao Mahan to use his princely connections to search the imperial pharmacy, scour beyond the palace. He'd readily agreed, promising to find it for our child. What I'd awaited was my child growing cold in my arms, breath finally ceasing. So that is it. That snow lotus meant to save my child's life. He'd given it to Lin Wana. It was him. He'd personally severed his own flesh and blood's lifeline. I lost control completely, releasing a piercing shriek inhuman, more like a demon's wail from hell. Sweetness surged up my throat. I spat a mouthful of fresh blood, staining my sleeping robe crimson. Towering hatred erupted like magma in my chest, nearly incinerating my sanity. I bit my lip savagely until I tasted blood, barely preventing total collapse. The light in my eyes extinguished utterly in that moment, replaced by vengeful fire from the 9 hells, cold enough to freeze everything. I raised my head, my bloodless face twisting into a smile uglier than weeping. My eyes held no tears, only blood-red, maddened, killing intent. Your Highness, I looked at Pei Yuan, voice hoarse yet calm, a calm that chilled the soul. I'll cure your poison. But my condition isn't merely his ruin, I want him dead. Pei Yuan observed the hatred nearly overflowing from my eyes, showing neither surprise nor pity. He simply stood there, profound eyes like ancient wells, unrippled, as though my word dead was as mundane as discussing weather. Agreed, he uttered 2 words, accepting my terms. His composure actually settled my roiling hatred, condensing it into something harder, colder, more resolute. Your Highness, please extend your wrist for pulse diagnosis. I suppressed the searing pain in my chest, wiping blood from my lips with my sleeve, voice regaining former steadiness. Thou beneath that steadiness, no warmth remained. Pei Yuan said nothing, sitting on the round stool beside my bed, placing his wrist on the pulse pillow. His wrist was slender yet conveyed immense latent strength beneath the sleeve. His skin was pallid from years without sunlight, contrasting starkly with the dark jade thumb ring. I extended 3 fingers, lightly touching his pulse point, closing my eyes to concentrate. Moments later, I opened my eyes, brow furrowing slightly. Your Highness is poisoned with Frost's descent, I said slowly. This toxin is colorless, tasteless, initially asymptomatic save occasional fatigue, but it penetrates bone marrow over time, every rainy day or full moon. Cold chi attacks the heart like plunging into an ice abyss, organs pierced by countless frozen needles. Agony beyond endurance. 3 years is the limit. Without antidote, blood vessels will freeze, death coming silently in sleep, appearing peaceful, actually frozen solid. I finished and looked up at him. Pei Yuan's expression remained unchanged, but those unfathomable eyes rippled for the first time. His poisoning was highly classified. Only the Emperor and a few trusted physicians knew. Yet from one pulse reading I'd identified the poison's name, symptoms, and consequences with perfect accuracy. How did you know? His voice carried inquiry. The Shen family's ancient medical texts recorded it. I withdrew my hand, speaking calmly. Frost's descent is a lost secret poison from the previous dynasty's palace, viciously potent. The poisoner must have deep ties to that fallen court, holding high status, able to administer it undetected in your Highness's food over extended time. No small feat. Pei Yuan's gaze darkened. He didn't respond, tacitly confirming my deduction. Is there a cure? He asked, his true concern. Yes, I nodded. The method is complex. Gold needle acupuncture combined with medicinal decoctions to expel the cold toxin. 49 days required. During this period, no martial exertion, no mental strain. The prescription requires 1 primary ingredient, phoenix bloodvine, extremely rare, growing only on southern frontier cliffs. I have phoenix bloodvine, Pei Yuan said flatly. Over 3 years I've had people search the realm. It arrived last month, but the physicians have the ingredient yet lack the formula and needling technique. I understood, so that is how it was. Saving me seemed coincidental, but was actually a gamble, betting my claim of curing any poison wasn't empty boasting. With the primary ingredient, matters are simpler. I said, starting tomorrow I'll administer needles. However, I paused, lifting my head to meet his eyes directly, enunciating, I cure your Highness's poison. Your Highness aids my vengeance. This is a transaction. I need assurance I can trust. Pei Yuan studied me. His lips seemed to curve infinitesimally, forming an almost invisible arc tinged with intrigue. Oh, what assurance do you want? I want an identity. My voice was clear and firm, an identity lofty enough to make Xiao Mahan look up, make him regret bitterly, make him kneel in obeisance every time he sees me. An identity allowing me to stand before him openly and trample him underfoot. I'd expected him to grant me a nominal princess or county lady title or adopt me as sworn sister. For the all-powerful regent prince, such things required merely a word. However, Pei Yuan's next words far exceeded my expectations. He looked at me, those profound eyes coloring with an emotion I couldn't decipher. Perhaps appreciation, perhaps amusement. Prince Jing's cast-off wife becoming my sworn sister overnight. That spectacle would indeed make young Xiao cough blood. He spoke unhurriedly, then his tone shifted. But that is insufficient. He rose, approaching me slowly. His towering figure cast oppressive shadow. He bent slightly, meeting my gaze, those ink-dark eyes seeming to absorb my very soul. If we're doing this, let's be thorough. His voice was low, carrying bewitching magic. I lack a regent princess consort. You'll assume that role. How about it? My breath caught. My heart pounded uncontrollably. Regent princess consort, second only to one, above 10,000. Never mind Xiao Mahan, even the current empress would owe me deference by protocol. If I became regent princess consort, Xiao Mahan would have to bow and address me as imperial aunt, at every encounter. For someone as arrogant as him, this would be worse than death. What monumental humiliation, and what formidable leverage. I studied Pei Yuan, seeking any trace of jest in that inscrutable face, but found none. His gaze was earnest and sharp, confirming this was no joke. Why? I couldn't help asking. I am merely a powerless, divorced woman, a lone daughter bearing blood vengeance. Why bestow such an exalted position upon me? I told you, I didn't save you without price. Pei Yuan straightened, resuming detached aloofness. You need my power for vengeance. I need your medical skill for detoxification. We must spend 49 days in close proximity. A legitimate identity eliminates unnecessary complications. Moreover, he paused, gaze shifting to the window. Voice taking on coldness. I am quite curious to see young Xiao's expression upon learning this news. I understood. This was a transaction through and through. He gave me status and power. I gave him healing and treatment. We each took what we needed. Even in humiliating Xiao Mahan, our objectives aligned perfectly. No love, only mutual benefit. This actually brought me unprecedented peace of mind. My heart had died the moment I lost my child and was divorced. What remained was merely a shell bent on vengeance. Such a transaction was my best option. I drew a deep breath and knelt slowly, solemnly before Pei Yuan. Shen Qingqi thanks your highness for this grace. From this day forth, Prince Jing's cast-off wife Shen Qingxi ceased to exist. In her place stood the future regent princess consort, an assurer returned from hell to claim Xiao Muhan's life. Since striking my bargain with Pei Yuan, I officially took up residence in the regent's manor. The household staff addressed me as prospective princess consort, respectful yet maintaining precisely calibrated distance. I knew that at power's pinnacle everyone was razor-sharp. Unable to read the prince's true intentions, they'd extend only surface courtesy. I didn't care about such trifles. Daily I was either in the pharmacy preparing Pei Yuan's detoxification decoctions, or in his study administering acupuncture. Gold needle acupuncture was perilous, mentally exhausting. After each session, I'd emerge pale-faced, drenched in sweat. Pei Yuan proved a patient subject and qualified transaction partner. He granted every request for medicinal ingredients without question or comment. Beyond treatment, we exchanged few words like two blocks of ice, each guarding our boundaries yet achieving peculiar synchronicity regarding vengeance. A fortnight later, Pei Yuan's cold toxin had been substantially suppressed, his complexion visibly improved, and a piece of news spread throughout the capital. Prince Jing Xiao Mahan would soon marry Lady Lin Wan, daughter of the Minister of Personnel, as his principal consort. The date, the 8th day of next month. To this end, the palace specially arranged a double 9th festival banquet, ostensibly for chrysanthemum viewing, but actually to create momentum for this perfect match. The invitation arrived at the regent's manor as I finished administering Pei Yuan's final needle of the day. He examined the gilt-edged invitation, lips curving in cold mockery. Seems my dear nephew can't wait to parade his victory before the world. I kept my head down, tidying the silver needles, saying nothing. My heart was beyond ripples. Whom Xiao Mahan married was irrelevant. I only cared when he'd pay for my child's life. Prepare yourself. Pei Yuan's voice drifted over, detached, tonite. We attend together. My hands paused over the needles. I looked up. He met my gaze, those profound eyes glinting with anticipation of a good show. Didn't you want an identity? Tonight is the perfect occasion for me to legitimize you, and your vengeance's opening move. My heart ignited with cold fire in that moment. Yes, I'd lurked in shadows long enough. Time to show Xiao Muhan precisely what he'd cast aside. Night fell, lanterns blazed. I shed plain mourning garb for palace attire. The manor's embroiderers had rushed to complete deep purple, its skirts embroidered with silver-threaded phoenixes and peonies in layer upon layer, extraordinarily magnificent. Maids arranged my hair in an elevated flying immortal coiffure, adorning it with a complete set of red gold inlaid ruby ornaments, tassels swaying with my movements. The woman in the bronze mirror wore my features still, but the gentle docility in her brows had been washed away, replaced by a cold, magnificent bearing steeped in hatred and despair. Light cosmetics sufficed to create dazzling brilliance utterly different from the former princess consort who'd known only domestic duties. When I emerged, Pei Yuan, waiting in the corridor, registered a flash of unmistakable admiration in his eyes. Today he wore a black python robe embroidered with gold thread, his already imposing figure appearing even more formidable. He extended his hand naturally. I hesitated momentarily before placing mine lightly in his palm. His palm was broad and warm, starkly contrary to his cool temperament. "Let's go," he said quietly, lips carrying a barely perceptible smile. "The show is about to begin." The palace banquet hall blazed with lights, music, and song unceasing. Nobility and court ministers exchanged toasts, laughter, and conversation flowing freely. Xiao Mahan and Lin Wana were undoubtedly tonight's center of attention. He wore princely python robes, spirits high and proud. She, in pink gauze, leaned against him like a delicate bird, accepting genuine or feigned congratulations from all sides. "Prince Jing is truly blessed. Lady Lin is stunningly beautiful. You are a match made in heaven." "Indeed. I hear Lady Lin is already with child. Double happiness. Most auspicious." Xiao Mahan basked in this flattery, smile growing ever more smug. He raised his cup, declaring loudly, "Many thanks for your kind words. On the 8th of next month, when Lady Wana and I wed, I hope you'll all honor us with your presence." His gaze swept the assembly, savoring this moment of universal attention, eyes inadvertently passing over the empty seat beside the host's position. His brow contracted almost imperceptibly. That seat belonged to the regent prince. Pei Yuan hadn't yet arrived today. Just then, a eunuch's piercing, elongated announcement cut through the hall's clamor, causing everyone to fall silent. "His Highness the Regent Prince arrives. The prospective princess consort arrives." Prospective princess consort. The entire assembly erupted. Everyone knew the Regent Prince Pei Yuan was notoriously eccentric, nearly 30, without even a concubine in his manor. How could a prospective princess consort suddenly materialize? Which family's daughter possessed such tremendous fortune? Every gaze swiveled towards the opened palace doors. Xiao Mahan's smile froze mid-air, his wine cup suspended halfway. Before curious, probing, envious stares, Pei Yuan's towering figure appeared first at the entrance. Behind him followed a woman in magnificent attire. When I clearly saw that woman's face, the entire hall gasped. Collectively clad in deep purple finery, graceful figure, I advanced step by measured step into this resplendent hall under Pei Yuan's personal escort. My gaze was serene, sweeping over stunned faces, finally settling on that man whose complexion had turned deathly pale, as though struck by lightning fang. Xiao Mahan's wine cup crashed to the floor, shattering, wine splashing his expensive robe hem. He didn't notice. He stared fixedly at me, those eyes once filled with impatience and coldness now brimming with shock, absurdity, and a trace of flustered panic even he hadn't recognized. How could it be her, Shen Qingzi, that divorced woman he'd cast aside, who should be languishing in some corner? How could she possibly be with the all-powerful regent prince and become prospective princess consort? Impossible, absolutely impossible. I met his ghost-seeing gaze, lips slowly curving into a cold, triumphant smile. "Xiao Mahan, it has been a while. Your nightmare officially begins tonight." The entire hall plunged into eerie silence. All eyes swept back and forth between me, Pei Yuan, and the ashen-faced Xiao Mahan like searchlights. the air thick with embarrassment, shock, and pungent gossip. Who didn't know that a fortnight ago, Prince Jing had divorced his principal consort, Lady Shen, citing childlessness? Who didn't know this Lady Shen was precisely the woman now held by the Regent Prince's hand, about to become Regent Princess Consort? This was the most sensational imperial scandal since the dynasty's founding, Prince Jing's discarded wife transforming overnight into his imperial aunt. The slap landed with such resounding force. I could clearly see Xiao Mahan's face cycle from white to green to red, a spectacular display, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles blanched, temples throbbing visibly, clearly on the brink of explosion. Pei Yuan seemed oblivious to all this. He led me by the hand, eyes forward towards his exclusive, supremely honored position, passing Xiao Mahan. He didn't even spare peripheral vision, complete disregard from power's apex. Imperial Uncle Xiao Mahan forced those two words through gritted teeth, voice taut with barely suppressed humiliation and rage. Only then did Pei Yuan pause, head turning slightly, glancing down at him with aloof condescension. Prince Jing has business. Xiao Mahan's gaze bore into me, eyes holding interrogation, unwillingness, and a trace of betrayed fury he refused to acknowledge, as though Suvdiambai were the transgressor. This lady is, he bit out, your imperial aunt. Pei Yuan's response was simple, direct. A blade precisely inserted into Xiao Mahan's heart. Xiao Mahan's body swayed, complexion paling further. At this tense moment, a delicate voice interjected inappropriately, elder sister. Lin warned from behind Xiao Mahan, clad in tender pink gauze, face bearing perfectly calibrated surprise and concern, eyes brimming with tears, utterly pitiful. Elder sister, is it really you? How are you with His Highness the Regent? His Highness, he has been so worried about you. After you left the manor, His Highness sent so many people searching, nearly beside himself with anxiety. Her words dripped with apparent sincerity, portraying my relationship with Xiao Mahan as mere marital tiff. She'd subtly established my departure, whilst showcasing Xiao Mahan's supposed devotion, casting me as unreasonable and willful. What a master of inverting truth, a white lotus indeed. Before I could respond, Pei Yan at my side released a cold laugh. He lowered his gaze to Lin Wana, eyes icy as though viewing a corpse. When did you earn the right to discuss my people? Lin Wana froze, smile barely maintained, instinctively shrinking behind Xiao Mahan, biting her lip pitifully. Your Highness, please don't be angry, Wana. Wana only cares for elder sister, after all. Elder sister was once part of Prince Jing's manor. Now to be so ambiguously by your Highness's side, if word spreads, it reflects poorly on elder sister's reputation, on both Prince Jing's manor and the Regent's manor. Her words were more venomous, directly painting me as a shameless divorced woman who'd seduced the Regent Prince. I mentally sneered, about to retort, but Pei Yuan gently squeezed my hand, signaling patience. He spoke slowly, deliberately, voice low yet carrying clearly throughout the hall. My prospective princess consort, I personally approached her family, proposing marriage with empress-level rights. Her reputation is more precious than gold. As for you, his gaze shifted to Lin Wan, as suddenly sharp as knives. An unmarried woman pregnant before wedlock, utterly shameless. You dare discuss my princess consort before me? Boom. The hall exploded. Pregnant before wedlock. In this rigidly ceremonial imperial family, such scandal was monumental. Lin Wan's face drained of all color. She hadn't expected Pei Yuan to so ruthlessly expose her greatest secret publicly. I didn't, she stammered desperately, tears streaming down. The picture of wronged innocence. Xiao Mahan's face blackened completely. This wasn't merely slapping Lin Wana, it ground Prince Jing's manor's face into the dirt. Imperial uncle, he roared. Wana is my betrothed wife. Your words are excessive. Excessive, Pei Yuan laughed coldly, the sound carrying chilling menace. She insulted my princess consort. That I haven't had her beaten to death on the spot already shows deference to your face. He no longer acknowledged these clowns, instead addressing guards outside coldly. Guards, 2 towering imperial guardsmen entered immediately. Lady Lin, committed insubordination, spoke disrespectfully. 20 strikes to the face. Let everyone witness the consequences of slandering my princess consort. Yes, sir, the guards advanced towards Linwana. Linwana shrieked in terror, hiding behind Shao Mahan. Your Highness, save me. Your Highness. Shao Mahan, shocked and furious, stepped forward to shield her, glaring at Pei Yuan. Imperial uncle, you dare. Watch me. Pei Yuan's eyes were glacial. They faced off, the hall's atmosphere taut to breaking point. Even the emperor sat rigidly on his throne, expression ugly yet silent. Ultimately, Shao Mahan yielded. Beneath Pei Yuan's mounting, crushing presence, all his rage and unwillingness appeared pathetically impotent. He knew if he persisted, Pei Yuan would punish him as well. He could only watch helplessly as guards dragged the trembling Lin Wana from behind him. Chris. Resounding slaps echoed from outside, each strike a hammer blow on Shao Mahan's face, on his pitiful, utterly obliterated dignity. He stared at me with eyes full of venom and regret. I returned his gaze, wearing a shallow, elegant smile. Shao Mahan, do you see? This is what you discarded. This is what you'll look up to henceforth. From now on, every humiliation you suffer, I shall personally bestow. Strategic commentary, second node. Public reversal of status tonight's palace banquet. Accomplished 3 objectives. Cognitive shock, transform from discarded trash to imperial aunt dimensional transcendence 2. Execution. Social execution. Power demonstration through Pei Yuan's authority. Establish the new hierarchy. This is classic perception warfare. Not destroying the enemy's body first, but crushing their psychological defenses. The game continues. Strategic commentary. Second node. Public reversal of status tonight's palace banquet. Accomplished 3 objectives. Unknown cognitive shock. Transform from discarded trash to imperial aunt dimensional transcendence 2. Social execution. Lin Wan's public humiliation. Siva's Xiao Mahan's remaining support 3. Power demonstration through Pei Yuan's authority. Establish the new hierarchy. This is classic psi-perception warfare. Not destroying the enemy's body first, but crushing their psychological defenses. The game continues after the palace banquet. Prince Jing's manor became the capital's laughingstock. Shao Mahan and Lin Wan devolved into high society gossip fodder. One a pathetic prince publicly humiliated by his imperial uncle. The other an unwed mother-to-be who'd been slapped senseless. Rumor had it Lin Wana remained bedridden for 3 days, face swollen like a pig's head. Meanwhile, Shao Mahan raged through the manor, smashing countless priceless porcelains. Hearing these reports, I was grinding cinnabar for medicine in Pei Yuan's study. Satisfied now? Pei Yuan's voice drifted from behind his desk. He reviewed memorials without looking up. My hands didn't pause their grinding. This is merely the beginning. These petty humiliations can't equal 1/10,000th of my grief over losing my child. What I want is to see him fall from the clouds and shatter completely. Pei Yuan set down his vermilion brush, raising his head to regard me. In candlelight, his features softened slightly, though those eyes remained unfathomably deep. Are you familiar with Prince Jing's manor's business holdings? He asked suddenly. My heart stirred. I knew he was initiating the next phase. I set down the medicine pestle, approached his desk, selected a wolf hairbrush from the stand, dipped it in ink, and swiftly sketched a relationship diagram on blank paper from memory. Under Shao Mahan's name, his openly held imperial estates and fiefdoms are bestowed by His Majesty Untouchable, I explained whilst drawing. But his true wealth comes from covert operations accumulated over the years. My brush tip tapped several points on the paper. West District's 4C's Commerce Money House, his largest treasury. Many court officials bank their silver there. It engages in lending. South District's Brocade Splendor Workshops monopolizes half the Jiangnan silk trade, enormously profitable. Then there is the suburban iron mine, nominally under a distant imperial relative, but actually controlled by him, privately excavated, sold to inappropriate buyers. These 3 are my doing. To assist him, I burned countless midnight hours. Exhausted myself building these enterprises. Every account entry, every key figure, I know them intimately. He once praised me, called me his finest helpmate. I set down the brush, stood, walked to the pond's edge, gazing at my reflection. Now all this becomes the death warrant delivering him to hell. Pei Yuan examined my diagram. eyes flashing approval. One glance sufficed to grasp the crux. Excellent. He took the ink-wet paper, handed it to his trusted aide standing nearby. Investigate according to these leads, remember. Catch them red-handed with evidence. Yes, sir. The aide accepted orders, withdrawing soundlessly. Thank you, Your Highness, I said softly. Merely a transaction, he replied flatly, returning to his memorials. The following days saw the capital's surface remain placid whilst undercurrents surged violently. First, Foreseas Commerce Money House, sealed by the Ministry of Revenue for account irregularities and illegal lending. All ledgers and silver confiscated. The proprietor and several managers immediately imprisoned. Next, Brocade's Splendor Workshop was exposed for substituting inferior goods, passing substandard silk as tribute. A crime of deceiving the sovereign, unpardonable. Bureau of Manufacture officials sealed the premises, consigning all silk to flames. The fatal blow came from the suburban iron mine. The censorate somehow obtained intelligence, submitting a memorial directly to the throne impeaching Prince Jing for unauthorized mining and selling iron implements to northern barbarians. Tantamount to treason, these 3 successive hammer blows, each more severe, left Xiao Muhan reeling. These enterprises represented years of painstaking cultivation, his greatest leverage for competing for succession. Now, overnight, everything crumbled. He'd not only lost his financial lifeline but been branded a traitor. Though the emperor, mindful of father-son bonds, didn't pursue deeply, merely reprimanding him and docking half a year's stipend, everyone at court understood. Clearly this once favoured Prince Jing had utterly lost imperial grace. Prince Jing's manners circumstances deteriorated dramatically. Without funds, household expenditures became strained. Lin Wana, accustomed to extravagance, formerly purchasing jewellery costing thousands of taels, now couldn't afford a decent gold hairpin, resulting in several manor-wide tantrums. Amidst this chaos, Xiao Mahan began involuntarily thinking of me. He recalled how, when I was present, regardless of expenditure scale, I'd managed everything impeccably, accounts clear, never shortfalls. He recalled how, when I was present, no matter how much abuse he'd suffered outside, returning home always meant a lamp left burning for him, a bowl of warm soup waiting. He recalled how, to help him cultivate court alliances, I'd personally cooked, hosting officials' family members. He recalled so much payments he'd once disdained, considered natural entitlement, now lost and revealed as incomparably precious. An emotion called regret sprouted like poisonous weeds in his heart. He began sending letters, words earnest, no longer the haughty prince, but rather tinged with pleading humility. He claimed to recognize his errors, admitted momentary confusion, insisted his heart had always held me. I didn't even read these letters, tossed them straight into the brazier. Seeing his missives sink without trace, he manufactured various chance encounters. When I visited apothecaries for medicinal ingredients, when I went to temples praying for my child, he'd coincidentally appear. That day, just emerging from Puji Temple, his carriage blocked my path. He descended, noticeably gaunt, eyes bloodshot, face bearing unprecedented haggardness and vulnerability. He looked at me, voice hoarse. Xingxi, can we talk? I regarded him coldly, as one would a stranger. I've nothing to discuss with your highness. No, we do. His emotions intensified. He stepped forward, attempting to grasp my hand, but my attendant guards intercepted him. He looked at me, eyes now tinged with supplication. Qingti, I know you hate me, resent me. I was wrong, utterly contemptible. Come back, just come back, and I'll divorce Lim Wana immediately. The princess consort position is yours forever. Watching this devoted performance, I felt only revulsion. If only he'd known then, why do this now? Could my child resurrect? Could my shattered heart mend? Number therefore, all his regret was worthless. Xiao Mahan, I retreated a step, distancing myself, tone detached and polite as though discussing weather with an irrelevant party. You and Lady Lin are perfectly matched, soon to wed. I am merely a divorced woman. How dare I covet the princess consort position? If word spread, people would say I am shameless, pestering your highness. My words were heart-piercing arrows, each one reminding him. Hai had pushed me away. I had issued that divorce decree for Lin Wanna's sake. Xiao Mahan's face flushed crimson. He seemed wounded by my verbal blades, eyes flashing pain and mortification. Qingti, that is not true. Listen to my explanation, he said urgently. Voice panicked. Wanna and I, it is all pretense to win over her father. The Minister of Personnel. The one I truly love has always been you. Ha! I laughed as though hearing the world's grandest joke, a clear, warm, less sound, particularly jarring in this temple courtyard silence. I raised my eyes, meeting his directly, gaze cold as knives. Your Highness's love means presenting divorce papers whilst my child's corpse remained warm, clearing space for your beloved's child. Your Highness's love means taking the Tianshan snow lotus meant to save my child's life to rescue that woman instead. My voice wasn't loud, yet each word rang clearly, hammer blows pounding Xiao Muhan's heart. He staggered back as though struck by lightning, face turning deathly pale, lips trembling wordlessly. How did you know? He asked incredulously, eyes full of terror. The snow lotus matter was his deepest shame. He'd thought it perfectly concealed that I'd never discover. He hadn't anticipated this most lethal secret being exposed. If you don't want others to know, don't do it yourself. I regarded him coldly, watching his face contort with guilt and fear, my heart devoid of satisfaction, only icy desolation. Xiao Mahan, you never loved me. You've only ever loved yourself, your power and prospects. You miss me not because of any deep feelings, but because after losing me, you lost a tool who managed your household, strategized for you, consolidated your finances. You discovered Lin Wanna, aside from crying tantrums, and playing coquette, is utterly useless, even causes trouble. So you regret it. You want to reclaim this useful tool. Each sentence was a scalpel, precisely dissecting the most selfish, filthy interior beneath his devotion's facade. Xiao Mahan was rendered speechless. His mouth opened but produced no rebuttal because he knew I'd spoken pure truth. His silence was the best answer. Am I correct? I pressed closer, icy gaze locking onto him. You seek me now only because you've fallen from grace, reached desperation. If today you remained that imperially favored, illustrious Prince Jing, would you stand here saying these things? He retreated under my pressure, eyes evasive, unable to meet mine. Qingti, he mumbled, seemingly wanting to argue. Enough. I cut him off, voice dripping with disgust. Spare me your cheap devotion, Xiao Mahan. To me, it is more contemptible than roadside weeds. You think this is some chasing wife to the crematorium scenario? No, you don't even qualify for entry, because from the moment you divorced me, I, Shen Qingqi, excised you completely from my life. I watched his desperate, anguished face, heart utterly unmoved. Oh, I forgot to mention something. I suddenly recalled, lips curving in a cruel smile. His Highness, the Regent, and I have set our wedding date next month, the 8th day, the same day as your Highness and Lady Lin. What a coincidence. Iboom asterisk, this final sentence was the straw breaking the camel's back, utterly demolishing Xiao Mahan's defenses. He jerked his head up, eyes bloodshot, gaze brimming with crazed jealousy and unwillingness. No, impossible, Shen Qingqi. You are my woman. Even if I don't want you, you can't marry another, especially not Pei Yuan. He roared madly, lunging towards me. Impudence. My attendant guards immediately intervened, restraining him like a helpless chicken. I watched his futile struggles coldly, his jealousy-twisted face, saying slowly, Xiao Mahan, you seem to have forgotten. I am now the future regent princess consort, your imperial aunt. Your shouting at me constitutes insubordination. Speak further nonsense, and don't blame me for showing no mercy. Mercy, he laughed bitterly, the sound piercing. Is there any mercy left between us? None. My answer was definitive. From the moment you killed our child, none remained. I turned without another glance, boarding the regent's manor carriage. The curtain fell, severing his gaze full of despair and regret. I leaned against soft cushions, closing my eyes. No vengeful satisfaction in my heart, only exhaustion. Xiao Mahan, the game has only just begun. I'll make you witness, step by step, how you lose everything whilst I ascend to heights you'll never reach. I'll ensure you spend your remaining days drowning in endless regret and agony. After that temple encounter, Xiao Mahan quieted briefly. Perhaps my words had been too heart-piercing for rebuttal. Perhaps reality's blows had beaten him into recognizing the impossibility between us. However, this calm didn't last. As our respective wedding dates approached, a pathological, unwilling obsession resurged in his heart. He no longer openly accosted me but employed more contemptible methods, attempting to salvage his laughable dignity. He began hinting in various contexts to outsiders that I still harbored feelings for him, that my marrying the regent prince was merely petulance designed to provoke his reconciliation. He even enlisted supposed old acquaintances, fabricating details of our past loving harmony, attempting to portray me as a vindictive woman who'd schemed her way to loftier branches. These rumors buzzed like flies. Whilst unable to cause substantive harm, they were sufficiently nauseating. Upon hearing, Pei-yuan merely laughed coldly, asking if I needed his intervention. I shook my head. Such trifles don't warrant your highness's attention. For those who won't weep until seeing their coffin, the best method is making them personally witness their most treasured possessions being destroyed bit by bit. That day, I claimed physical indisposition, requiring retreat to Qingfeng Temple in the countryside for recuperation. Requesting Pei-yuan's leave, Pei-yuan asked nothing, merely dispatching the manor's most elite guards as escort. I knew my whereabouts would reach Xiao Mahan's ears within an hour. As expected that evening, whilst I strolled alone through bamboo groves behind the temple, that familiar, loathsome figure arrived on cue. He'd clearly dressed carefully moon-white brocade robes, hair immaculately groomed, attempting to recreate his former refined gentleman's elegance. Only his haggard complexion and sinister undertones couldn't be concealed. "Qingti," he called out, voice deliberately tender. I halted, turned, regarding him coldly. "Prince Jing, we've nothing further to discuss." "No, we do," he insisted stubbornly, advancing step by step. "Qingti, I know you are still angry. Listen, those rumors weren't my doing. How could I bear harming you? This sanctimonious act turned my stomach, indeed." I arched a brow, tone dripping sarcasm. "Then I suppose claiming I married the regent prince merely to provoke you also wasn't your highness's doing?" His expression froze, eyes evasive. I merely spoke truth, Qingxi. I know your heart holds me. You are unwilling to marry my imperial uncle, someone so cold-blooded and murderous. How could you like him? You are just using him to revenge yourself against me." "You are wrong," I interrupted, watching his confident face, suddenly thinking letting him live in self-delusion might be his perfect punishment. But no, I wouldn't. I'd tear apart all his fantasies, force him to face the cruelest reality. "I am not using him." My voice was calm and clear. "I willingly marry him because he can give me everything you cannot." "I can't give you," Xiao Mahan sounded incredulous. "What can't I give? I am a prince with limitless prospects. Pei-yuan, however powerful, remains merely a subject." "Is that so?" My smile turned colder. "Can you give me wholehearted commitment? Can you extend aid when I am most desperate and helpless? All you've given me are divorce papers, betrayal, and my child's cold corpse." Those final words were nearly spat through clenched teeth. Xiao Mahan blanched. "The child. That was an accident." "Accident." I stepped forward, icy gaze pinning him like twin blades. "Xiao Mahan, even now you persist in self-deception." He looked at me with growing alarm, instinctively retreating. What do you mean?" I watched his panicked expression, cruel satisfaction blooming in my heart. I slowly withdrew something from my sleeve, my mother's dagger. The ancient scabbard gleamed coldly in twilight. Xiao Mahan's pupils constricted sharply upon seeing it, face paling dramatically. He couldn't forget just over a month ago, beneath this blade's edge, he'd felt death's threat. "What are you doing?" he demanded, hand flying to his sword hilt. "Nothing much." I unsheathed the dagger slowly, blade tracing a dark arc through air. "Just ensuring you die understanding the truth." I advanced step by step. He retreated until his back met a thick bamboo trunk trap. I halted before him, pressing that icy blade tip lightly against his chest. Through layers of fabric, I felt his heart pounding wildly with terror. "You think our child died from congenital weakness?" My voice was soft, demonic whispers drilling into his ears. His body stiffened violently. You think the primary ingredient missing from Lin Wan's foetal preservation draft was simply unavailable from the Imperial Medical Bureau. His breathing quickened. Number? I watched those eyes widening with fear, enunciating each word with cruel precision. That Tianshan snow lotus capable of saving our child's life sat in your study. You, to save your so-called true love, personally delivered it to her. You, knowing full well our child needed it to survive, watched him die. You, Xiao Mahan, you personally murdered your legitimate firstborn son. These words struck like heavenly thunder, exploding directly above Xiao Mahan's head. He froze completely, as though stripped of strength and soul, face draining to corpse-like pallor. Number, that is not true. I didn't know. I didn't know he'd die. He babbled incoherently, voice thick with collapsing despair. You didn't know. I laughed coldly, advancing the blade another fraction, its keen edge piercing his robe. Of course you knew. You heard the physician's words clearly. You simply deemed an unformed child less important than your beloved's safety, less valuable than the Minister of Personnel's support. In your calculus, we mother and child were merely expendable pawns. Number? No, he crumbled completely, sliding down the bamboo trunk, clutching his head like a desperate trapped beast, releasing agonized howls. I withdrew the blade, looking down at him, this man shattered by truth, my heart utterly unmoved. I crouched slowly, using the dagger that had just threatened his chest to pat his handsome yet contorted face gently. Xiao Mahan, remember this feeling. My voice was glacial. From today forward, I'll ensure you live every day drowning in the remorse of having murdered your own child. I'll make you wish for death. Rising, I spared him no further glance, turning resolutely away. Behind me echoed his suppressed, desperate weeping, the first offering to my pitiful child's spirit. After thoroughly crushing Xiao Mahan in regret's abyss, I didn't relent. One pillar had fallen. I'd now uproot his other spiritual crutch, that seemingly pure white lotus, exposing her filthy roots to sunlight. Returning to the manor, I dispatched someone to Yueli Inn in the South District. Yueli Inn was a notorious pleasure house, a den frequented by wealthy merchants and martial artists from all corners, a perfect place for gathering intelligence and manufacturing accident. I had someone generously bribe an inn worker to watch for a Jiangnan silk merchant named Zhou Yan. This Zhou Yan figured prominently in my previous life's memories. Lin Wan as former lover before marrying into the manor, childhood sweethearts who'd pledged themselves. Later, when the Lin family climbed to the Minister of Personnel's heights, Lin Wan ruthlessly abandoned him for wealth and status. She hadn't anticipated Zhou Yan's devotion. Unable to forget her, he'd follow to the capital, hoping to rekindle their romance. In my past life, upon discovering this, Xiao Mahan secretly executed Zhou Yan to preserve the manor's face, erasing all traces. Lin Wan, with consummate acting and tears, portrayed herself as innocent victim, earning Xiao Mahan's increased sympathy. This life I wouldn't let her succeed. I'd make Xiao Mahan personally witness his treasured white moonlight's true, promiscuous nature. Everything proceeded according to plan. Zhou Yan, unable to resist lovesickness, contrived to send Lin Wan letters, arranging a meeting at Longing Pavilion outside the city. This letter my informant at Prince Jing's manor discreetly copied and delivered to my desk. Reading those sickeningly sweet, indecent phrases, my lips curved coldly. The time had come. I handed the letter, along with a pouch containing several East Sea pearls, to one of Pei Yuan's shadow guards. Find an appropriate moment to accidentally drop this letter in Prince Jing's study. Ensure he discovers it himself, not through servants' reports. The guard nodded. Vanishing into the night, the following day, Prince Jing's manor staged a spectacular drama. Xiao Muhan supposedly stumbled upon that letter in his study, initially disbelieving, suspecting a frame-up, but upon reading details mentioning private matters only he and Lin Wan knew, his already fragile trust shattered instantly. He raged on the spot, demolishing his study, but he didn't immediately confront Lin Wan, perhaps clinging to final illusions, perhaps wanting to catch the culprits red-handed. He suppressed his fury, deciding to stake out Longing Pavilion personally. Longing pavilion lay in the suburbs, isolated and deserted, perfect for clandestine meetings. That day, skies were overcast, matching Shah Mahan's mood. He changed into plain clothes, bringing only 2 trusted aides, secretly staking out the hillside near the pavilion. Shortly after, an unremarkable blue cloth carriage approached. A woman with graceful figure descended. His beloved Linwana, Shah Mahan's heart plummeted. Yet he still consoled himself. Perhaps Wana was just taking air. He was overthinking. However, his last fantasy was soon ruthlessly crushed. After alighting, Linwana didn't linger at the pavilion but walked straight towards the grove behind it. Moments later, a young man in blue robes emerged from the trees. Zhou Yan himself. Upon meeting, they embraced tightly, oblivious to surroundings. Wana, I've missed you so. Brother Yan, I've missed you too. Do you know how unbearable life is in that manner? Atop the hillside, Shah Mahan watched the embracing pair, hearing those intimate endearments, felt his blood rush to his head, fists clenched so tight his nails pierced his palms, eyes bloodshot. A beast on the verge of rampage, Lin Wana's next words delivered the killing blow. Zhou Yan asked, Wan, is the child in your belly truly that Prince Jing's? Lin Wana laughed derisively, voice dripping with contempt, utterly different from her delicate manner persona. How could it be? Why would I let that idiot touch me? She laughed coquettishly, stroking her flat abdomen. My belly's fake, merely a physician's fraudulent diagnosis. Otherwise, how would he so quickly divorce that Shen Qingqi and rush to marry me? That Prince Jing. Lim Wana's tone grew even more contemptuous. Merely a stepping stone for my family's ascent. Once father's position solidifies, once I've extracted sufficient benefits, I'll find a way to escape. Then we'll fly away together, become immortal companions. Wana, you are wonderful. Hearing this dialogue, Shah Mahan lost all control. He released a bestial roar, drew his sword, and charged down the hillside like a madman. The pair in the grove were terrified witless. When Lin Wana recognized the murderous Shah Mahan, she screamed, turning to flee. Zhou Yan displayed some backbone, blocking her path. Alas, a scholar was no match for Shah Mahan. One thrust, Shah Mahan pierced his chest. Blood stained the longing grove's fallen leaves. Lin Wan, watching her lover collapse in gore, seeing Shah Mahan advance with dripping sword, finally collapsed, begging incoherently, Your Highness, it is not true. Listen to my explanation. He forced me. Her answer came as Shah Mahan's crimson eyes, consumed by rage and betrayal, and a resounding slap delivered with full force. That day's scandal at Prince Jing's manor again shocked the entire capital. Shah Mahan dragged the half-dead Lin Wana back to the manor, exposing her misdeeds before all servants, then cast her into the woodshed. The soon-to-wed perfect couple instantly became mortal enemies. Prince Jing's manor became a complete laughingstock. As for Lin Wana, her fate proved worse than Shah Mahan's after expulsion. She attempted returning home, but Minister Lin already viewed her as family disgrace. Barring her entry, penniless, skill-less, she survived by pawning her last jewellery. However, carrying gold without protection, she soon attracted street thugs. They robbed her wealth and sold her to a South District brothel. That once lofty minister's daughter overnight became a plaything for all. I heard this news one afternoon. Sunlight was perfect. I sat in the courtyard watching koi in the pond. Pei Yuan approached, placing a food box on the stone table. My favourite asmanthus cakes inside. Lin Wana's fate you're doing? He asked. I shook my head. Number before I could act, she'd already reached this point herself. Perhaps this is so-called karmic retribution. Shah Mahan's been confined to the imperial clan court, he said flatly. I acknowledged, selecting an osmanthus cake, eating slowly. Won't you visit him? I looked up, meeting his probing gaze, smiling slightly. Why, to witness his degradation and misery unnecessary? I set down the cake, stood, walked to the pond's edge, gazing at my reflection. A loser isn't worth further time. My vengeance is complete, yet my heart remains hollow. Perhaps because this proved too easy. Pei Yuan's power, like an invincible blade, effortlessly severed all Shah Mahan's foundations. This isn't the vengeance I wanted. I wanted to personally drive that blood-stained blade into his chest. Confinement at the Imperial Clan Court was, for once lofty Shao Mahan, worse than death. The place was dank, perpetually sunless. He occupied a room under 10 square meters, receiving only 2 crude meals daily. No fine foods, no attendance, no power or glory, only endless regret and agony. In deep night silence, he'd think of Shen Qingxi, her gentle smile, her household management, her careful demeanor whilst pregnant. He'd also think of that child who'd never opened his eyes, his legitimate firstborn son, his bloodline's continuation. Yet he'd personally killed him, for a promiscuous woman, for an illusory power dream. He'd lost everything. And that woman he'd abandoned now stood at heights he'd never reach, becoming the universally revered regent princess consort. This contrast, this disparity tormented more than any torture. Time passed. Autumn deepened. That day, I donned plain garments, going alone to the Imperial Clan Court. Gate guards, seeing me, bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Princess Consort." "I wish to see Shao Muhan," I said flatly. The guard paused, but quickly complied. "Yes, Your Highness, please follow this servant." Through shadowy corridors, I reached Shao Muhan's cell. The guard opened the heavy iron door. Mold and decay wafted out. I entered. In dim light, I saw a gaunt, disheveled man sitting in the corner, eyes vacant, staring at the floor. A walking corpse. Hearing footsteps, he slowly raised his head. Recognizing me, those dead eyes finally flickered. "Qingqi." His voice was terribly hoarse, scraped from his throat. I regarded him silently. This once proud, conceited man now reduced to this state. I'd expected satisfaction, vengeful pleasure. But I felt nothing. My heart remained empty, cold. "You've come to gloat?" he asked with bitter laughter. "Number," I shook my head. "I've come to tell you something." He looked at me, eyes holding fleeting hope, perhaps expecting I forgive you or I'll save you. But my next words shattered his final illusion. The Shen family massacre wasn't accidental, it was orchestrated. The mastermind was the current crown prince, and you were an accomplice. Shao Mahan's face turned deathly pale, body trembling violently. What are you saying? I didn't know, truly didn't know you knew." I interrupted, enunciating each word. "That year, the crown prince wanted to eliminate the Shen family because my father held evidence threatening his position. The crown prince approached you, promising future support for your succession, if you assisted. You agreed. You exploited my trust, extracting from me the location of my father's hidden evidence. Then you informed the crown prince. That night, the crown prince dispatched men to slaughter the Shen manor, 103 souls, none spared. And you, to distance yourself, hypocritically wept before me, vowing vengeance. Shao Mahan, do you remember? Each sentence was a blade, stabbing viciously into his heart. He completely collapsed, clutching his head, sobbing. "Number." "That is not true. I didn't think they'd kill. I thought they'd just take the evidence. I truly didn't know." "You didn't know?" I laughed coldly. "You simply chose not to know. You only cared about power and prospects. My family's 103 lives were merely stepping stones for your ascent. So Shao Mahan, you didn't just kill our child. You are my entire family's enemy." I watched his face twist with despair and remorse, utterly unmoved. "I came today not for your repentance or to grant forgiveness. I simply wanted you to know all your misfortunes are self-inflicted. You deserve this." I turned, walking away without looking back. Behind me echoed his heart-rending cries. "Qingxi, Qingxi. I was wrong, truly wrong. Please, please just kill me. Please." My steps never faltered. Exiting the Imperial Clan Court, autumn sunlight fell upon me, yet couldn't dispel my heart's chill. I raised my head, gazing at azure sky, murmuring softly, "Father, mother, siblings, and my child. Do you see? Our enemy has received his due. But why? Why does my heart still ache so?" Returning to the manor, Pei Yuan sat in his study reviewing memorials. Hearing footsteps, he looked up, noting my exhaustion, setting down his vermilion brush. "You saw him?" he asked. I nodded, settling into the chair opposite. "How do you feel?" I remained silent for a long while before speaking slowly. I thought vengeance would bring happiness, liberation, but I've discovered hatred only drags one deeper. I've avenged myself, yet those I've lost can never return. Pei Yan regarded me, those profound eyes flickering with complex emotion. He rose, approaching, unusually extending his hand to pat my shoulder gently. Hatred indeed brings no happiness, but at least it kept you alive. When you emerge from hatred's shadow, perhaps you'll discover life holds other meanings. I looked up at him. This man who'd struck a bargain, granting me vengeance's opportunity. What about you? I suddenly asked. Why did you help me? Truly only because I could cure your poison. Pei Yan fell silent briefly before saying flatly, perhaps initially, but later. He paused, those habitually cold eyes warming slightly for the first time. Later I discovered, you and I are alike. We've both been wounded by fate, both confronting this world in our own ways. I wanted to see whether someone so thoroughly harmed would, after vengeance, choose continued degradation or rise anew. I stared at him, stunned, another fissure splitting my frozen heart's surface. Which do you think I'll choose? I asked. Pei Yan looked at me, lips curving in an extremely faint smile. You're right, because you are Shen Qingxi, a woman even hell cannot contain. Another spring arrived, the capital's peach blossoms bloomed especially splendidly, dyeing the entire city a sea of pink. I stood in the Regent Manor's rear garden, gazing at those blooming peach blossoms, heart suddenly welling with long-absent peace. This past year, I'd fulfilled my promise to Pei Yuan, completely purging his cold toxin. His health recovered fully better than before. And I, over this year, gradually emerged from hatred's shadow. I resumed medical practice, opening a clinic within the manor specifically for impoverished patients unable to afford treatment. I used medicine to save lives, good deeds to atone, for that heart once filled with hatred, cold and unfeeling. I also learned to coexist with Pei Yun. We remained more allies than spouses, yet through daily interaction I discovered this seemingly cold, ruthless man possessed a heart softer than anyone's. He'd quietly drape a cloak over me whilst I studied medical texts late into the night. On my birthday, he'd personally cook longevity noodles. When I occasionally recalled the past, sinking into sorrow, he'd silently stay beside me, saying nothing, merely holding my hand. These subtle kindnesses, like spring's warm sun, gradually melted my heart's ice. As for Xiao Mahan, he survived another half-year at the imperial clan court before finally dying alone in that dark cell one frigid winter night. Reportedly, he'd been muttering to the end, saying sorry and Qingti. But none of this concerned me anymore. His death brought no satisfaction, only confirmed that hatred was never life's destination. That day, Pei Yuan suddenly said, "Qingqi, let's go out." "Where?" I asked. "To see these magnificent rivers and mountains." He smiled, that smile unusually carrying boyish lightness. "You've cured my poison. I should honor my promise, grant you desired freedom." I looked at him, warmth suddenly flooding my heart. "All right," I nodded, "but I don't want freedom." Pei Yuan paused. "Then what do you want?" I approached, meeting his eyes earnestly. "I want you to accompany me viewing these magnificent rivers and mountains, one lifetime, one couple you promised." Pei Yuan stared at me, those profound eyes flashing surprise before melting into deep tenderness. He extended his hand, gently embracing me. "I'll write one lifetime, one couple that year." I was 23. I'd emerged from hatred's abyss, entering the life of someone who truly loved and cherished me. My first half-life was tragedy, but my second half, I would write myself. Maggie Liu's Strategic Review. Ultimate Edition. Dear rational thinkers, the story ends here. Shen Qingxi's victory was essentially cognitive dimensional dominance. Xiao Mahan remained at emotional bargaining level. I regret it. Come back, Shen Qingxi ascended to power structure level. I am your imperial aunt. You must bow to me. This is dimensional suppression. Never play by your opponent's rules, D. If you felt the spring rebound satisfaction, experienced dimensional assault's catharsis, congratulations. You've grasped this narrative system's underlying logic. I am Maggie Liu, believing cognition equals power, a strategic observer. Until next time. Maggie Liu's Strategic Review Ultimate Edition. Dear Rational Thinkers. Shen Qingxi's victory was essentially cognitive dimensional dominance. Zhao Muhan remained at emotional bargaining level. I regret it. Come back. Shen Qingxi ascended to power structure level. I am your imperial aunt. You must bow to me. This is dimensional suppression. Never play by your opponent's rules. If you felt the spring rebound satisfaction experienced, dimensional assault's catharsis, congratulations, you've grasped this narrative system's underlying logic. I am Maggie Liu, believing cognition equals power, a strategic observer. Until next time.